We have been talking about this volcano all week, and this morning lava is flowing from the world's largest active volcano. It is inching closer to a major highway on Hawaii's Big Island, now just 3 miles away from literally hitting that highway. Authorities say it could reach the interstate in a week. Our David Culver is live in Waimea, Hawaii, with more. David, what is it actually like to be there, right? You were driving through the middle of the night and boom.
We were, and we were in mid-conversation, and there's few things that can silence a group of journalists as they're full of caffeine and trying to get to their destination, except when you're in the pitch black of night, you turn that curve on a highway, and you see the glow. It's this glow behind me. You need to appreciate it better. We're going to turn off the lights here, if you don't mind, Greg and Anna-Maya. I'm going to step out of the way because this is a much better view than looking at it as a backdrop, but seeing it as we can push in. Here it is, 2, 3 in the morning, and you can see the really majesty of this. You're looking at Mauna Lea's Fissure 3, okay? So this is not even the summit, guys. That is miles away. Still, this is stunning, and it's the most active and stable lava flow at this hour. Now, locals, they've been passing by, middle of the night, all right? Families pulling over, taking photos, yes, but some of them, and this was interesting, just standing in silence, letting the majesty of this seep in. Now, officials, they're still pretty vigilant here. And a few hours ago, they updated the lava flow, noting that it's slowed down significantly, but it's still headed towards that main highway that you mentioned, Poppy, that Saddle Road. And cutting that off, that would create a logistical nightmare for residents. So they're hoping it doesn't get to that, but it could, and they're watching it. There's also air quality concerns, because what's billowing out of the top, they point out, is not smoke, but that's acid gas. So that can really cause serious respiratory problems for residents. So officials are, of course, monitoring the levels. But here's the thing. You've got this balance as I step back in. Sorry to block your view. We'll adjust it here. But you've got this balance between the concern, the urgency of this, very real, but also the appreciation and respect. And that comes from the officials. A few hours ago, as they were talking at the latest press conference, they said, you have to understand, Mauna Lea is the reason that half, if not more, of this big island exists. The land that people live on is because of eruptions like this. So there is that deep appreciation. Still, though, they're hoping people can keep a safe distance and respect it as they're appreciated. And we've seen that. As we're on the side of this road, people have been pulling over. They've come over to us to say, can you turn off your lights? We want to take it in. Wow. And folks who are not even locals, even flying in with us, looking to do the same thing, Poppy. Wow. And yet, they're not quite sure where this is going to go. That's part of the mystery of it all. And so they're keeping close watch, and we are too.
The investigation into those classified documents in Mar-a-Lago is not the only probe looming over former President Trump right now.
The January 6th committee is meeting today to talk about possible criminal referrals stemming from its investigation. Lawmakers say they will release all of their findings by the end of the year. CBS News senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge joins us now with more. Hi there, Catherine. So today's action is just the first step, is part of that set of first steps for the January 6th committee. Walk us through the process and how it will work moving forward.
Well, Errol and Elaine, it's really a two-step process. The first has been this subcommittee. These are members of the January 6th committee, and they're all attorneys, Jamie Raskin, Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, and Zoe Lofgren. And they've been putting together a menu of options for the larger committee to consider in terms of potential criminal referrals based on the evidence that they found, and more importantly, how they deal with this evidence that they have involving former President Trump. The second step is what we're seeing today, this larger virtual meeting of the entire committee where they're considering these options. We don't expect a final decision today, but we do in the very near future because they're on such a short timeline.
And considering all of that, Catherine, if there are criminal referrals here, what is the range of potential charges and outcomes?
Well, a criminal referral from Congress is a very serious matter. Among the options they have to consider is criminal contempt of Congress. That is the refusal to comply with a congressional subpoena. The second is perjury. That's lying in testimony to Congress or making false statements in documents. Witness tampering, I think that goes without saying, that can be trying to impress upon a witness the need to change their testimony, or just simply pressuring them so it's understood that a certain outcome is required. And then finally, you have the issue of obstruction. Obstruction can take many shapes, but a very common one is withholding documents from Congress or the destruction of documents.
So the clock is ticking. The committee is running out of time before the end of the congressional session. Catherine, will there be consequences for the Republicans who did not testify?
Well, as you mentioned, Elaine, there was a handful of House Republicans, including some in leadership, who refused to comply with these congressional subpoenas. They could face a referral on criminal contempt of Congress or contempt of Congress to go to the Justice Department. That's a very serious step today, and it's only been done with a handful of cases in the last administration. The more likely outcome might be an ethics referral to a congressional review. But again, as you point out, there's a very short runway now, because it's well documented that once we get to January and House Republicans take control of these committees, to say the least, they have a very different set of priorities.
That's right. All right, Catherine Herridge, thanks for joining us and walking us through all of that.
Of course.
And the investigation into former President Trump's handling of classified information is moving forward without a special master. An appeals court overturned the appointment of a special master to review those documents seized from Mar-a-Lago, saying, quote, "The law is clear." ABC News investigative reporter Catherine Falders joins me now with more on this. Catherine, thanks for being on. What happens to this investigation now that a special master is no longer involved?
Well, look, it proceeds as it was before. Of course, now it's led by the special counsel, Jack Smith, who was appointed by AG Garland. But look, DOJ has said that the appointment of this special master that, by the way, Trump's team originally wanted here was slowing down their investigation. This was someone who was tasked with going through all of these documents that were seized and marking them essentially, or ruling as whether they were privileged documents covered under executive privilege, attorney-client privilege, personal documents. This was something that was going to take a lot of time here. So, look, it's definitely a win for the Department of Justice. This investigation will keep proceeding, and we're seeing that happen at the same pace that it has been before. At the D.C. District Court right down the road from me, there have been multiple Trump aides who have shown up in front of the Mar-a-Lago grand jury, according to sources. They showed up yesterday. We have Trump's former White House counsel at the D.C. District Court today testifying before a grand jury in the January 6 matters. All of this shows that this is not slowing down at all, and the pace of this investigation, Diane, is continuing.
Catherine, meanwhile, the House panel investigating the Capitol attack will meet in private today, developing recommendations for possible criminal referrals to the Justice Department. What can we expect to come out of that?
Yeah, I was talking to the chairman of the committee, Benny Thompson, about this. He told me that they're going to meet today. It's probably going to be a virtual meeting. We won't see them after explaining exactly what the meeting was about. But essentially, they have a lot of loose ends to tie up here, right? One is releasing the transcripts, whether there will be criminal referrals, and for how many people, and on what type of charge, whether that's perjury, obstruction. These are all things that they're still trying to figure out. Thompson also told me, too, that they're also trying to figure out what type of action they take for those Republican members of Congress who they subpoenaed, who didn't listen to their subpoenas. They just didn't show up. What happens there? And also, Trump's filed a lawsuit. They subpoenaed former President Trump. He's filed a lawsuit. The committee hasn't really responded in court to that. That is also a portion of the discussion in their meeting today.
And the House Ways and Means Committee has former President Trump's tax returns now. So what will they do with them? And what happens when Republicans gain control of the House in January?
Yeah, we were talking to the chairman of that committee, Richie Neal, who requested these tax returns back in 2019. Of course, Treasury has said they've complied with that request. Look, he is being very tight-lipped about this. Won't even confirm whether he has the documents in his possession, but did say that he has tasked a team of people who he called, quote-unquote, designated agents who would be responsible for viewing these. The question is, they don't have much time. The clock is ticking, as you said. That's something the chairman of this committee has acknowledged. This is heavily lawyered, Diane. The lawyers of the House of Representatives are involved in this. Whether they release some of them publicly, whether they do a report, that's all still to be determined. They don't have much time here. So all things that are being figured out behind the scenes as the chairman meets with his lawyers and his staffers.
All right, Catherine Falders, we appreciate it. As always, thank you.
Mr. President, Your Highness. This way, excuse me, this way. Let's all go walk this way. We're going to jump in. Yeah. Of course.